Lin Yujing stood silently, her fingers nervously fidgeting as the awkward greetings echoed through the room. Her mother's words, delivered with a forced smile, sounded hollow in her ears. "Xiangmei, this is my daughter," her mother introduced her. Lin nodded politely. "Xiaoyi, greet your auntie," the voice urged again. Lin felt like an outsider, observing herself from afar. "Hello, Annie," she replied with a small bow, mechanically following instructions. "There's no need to be so polite," Annie smiled. "We will be a family from now on." Family. The word stung, bitter and cold. Lin's thoughts wandered back 3 months ago to the chaotic end of her parents' marriage. She could still hear their angry voices filling the house. "You can take the house," her father had shouted. "I don't want the car either. You can also take the child." Lin remembered how her mother's face had twisted with disbelief. "What do you mean I take the child? I don't have time to deal with her," her father had said, without so much as a glance in her direction. Her heart had clenched at the casual cruelty of it all. "You don't have time?" her mother had snapped, her voice shaking with anger. "Who said I have time, huh? Meng Weigua, you think you're so great? You've been living off me for years, and now you're suddenly too busy." The memory was vivid. Lin stood there, their words piercing her like sharp daggers. In their battle, she had been nothing more than an afterthought. A piece of furniture, perhaps, tossed aside in their argument over who would shoulder the burden of her care. To them, she wasn't a daughter. She was an inconvenience. Now, 3 months later, she was here, in this strange house with people who smiled at her like she was part of something she didn't understand. "Your dad and I will leave for our honeymoon tonight," her stepmother chirped. "Just treat this like your own home. No need to have any reservations." Lin forced a smile. "Okay." But inside, she was crumbling. "If there's anything you need, just ask Annie Zhang," her father added, his tone light, like this was all perfectly normal. "We're happy you're here." He paused, distracted. "Oh, when you're done with your walk, I'll have my son pick you up. Just treat him like your real, older brother." Her eyes widened. "Brother," she repeated quietly. Another stranger. Another unfamiliar face to deal with. "Okay, I'm heading out." She left the house, her mind swirling. She wandered aimlessly through the streets, feeling the weight of her new life pressing down on her. She had thought a walk might clear her mind, but instead, her thoughts only grew heavier. Then, she saw at a small tattoo shop tucked away on a quiet street corner. A sudden impulse gripped her, and before she could second-guess herself, she pushed open the door. "Hi." Lin's voice wavered as she stepped inside. "Master Wan, we have a customer," a voice called out, rough and impatient. She glanced around, feeling out of place. "There's a person in there?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Shen Wan, stop King sleeping. Get up and greet our guest." The man behind the counter barked orders to the person in the back, his voice echoing through the small shop. Finally, a figure emerged, groggy and disheveled. "I'll greet them. CK off," the man mumbled, clearly not in the best mood. Lin shifted uncomfortably, but smiled politely. "No worries," she said. "I'll just—" She pointed to a drawing on the wall, a childish doodle of Hello Kitty. "This Doraemon is so cute." The man looked at her, confused. "This is Hello Kitty." Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "All right." She sat down, letting the hum of the tattoo machine fill the silence. As the needle buzzed against her skin, she couldn't help but feel like she was making a small rebellion against the helplessness that had followed her for so long. When the tattoo was done, Lin left the shop, her mind clearer, her heart lighter. But as she walked, her phone buzzed. Her so-called brother had texted, "I've got a cold. I can't pick you up later." She sighed. "How bad is it? How high is your fever?" She typed back, not expecting much. When he replied with 40, she rolled her eyes. She wasn't a doctor, but she knew how to handle this. "Then I'll help you call 119, she texted sarcastically before slipping her phone back into her pocket. She walked on, feeling a strange mixture of amusement and frustration. Back at the tattoo shop, the men were still talking about her. "Master Wan," one of them said. "That girl earlier, she was kind of pretty, right? Standing there in her cute dress, eyes as clear as glass beads. She had the vibe of a fairy, didn't she?" Master Wan grunted in reply, barely interested. Yeah, sure. She looks innocent, but make one wrong move, and she'd probably eat you alive. His friend laughed. Come on. Just because your nap got disturbed doesn't mean you should be mean. You should have given her the studio's business card. Shen Wan just shook his head. No need. That girl, she's a world apart from people like us. The air outside was cool as Lin Yujing climbed into the back seat of her brother's car. She'd barely said 2 words to him since she moved in, and now she felt awkward, unsure of how to break the silence. Thank you for the ride, brother, she muttered, glancing at him from the corner of her eye. Her brother, still clearly annoyed, grunted in response. Sorry about earlier. I was just joking when I mentioned calling emergency services, she said with a small laugh, trying to lighten the mood. I didn't really mean to call them, but you said your fever was 40 degrees, so… Yeah, whatever, he muttered as focused on the road. She continued, her words tumbling out in an effort to smooth things over. You should really take care of yourself, though. Make sure you're drinking lots of… She paused, stumbling over her words. Boiling water. No, I mean hot water. Lin felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment as her brother shot her an incredulous look. I'm going to go back to my room now. Please, take care of your illness, she added hastily, eager to retreat from the awkwardness. As soon as she was out of the car, she could hear his irritated muttering behind her. Astra's first 119, now it's boiling water? How can there be such a detestable younger sister? Asterisk. She winced but kept walking. Her brother's voice faded, but not before she caught one last muttered complaint. Asterisk, now she wants to suck up to me, pretending to care? It won't work. I'm telling you it won't. Asterisk. Inside the house, her brother was still fuming. Don't come here, he yelled to no one in particular. Take your pants off. I'll tattoo a Hello Kitty on you, he muttered in mockery of the situation earlier. No. My bum is too nice for that, he said, mimicking a fake conversation, clearly enjoying his own twisted joke. Your Hello Kitty looks so ugly it couldn't possibly match the beauty of my. Then I'll give you a moonlight watch, he added, laughing at the ridiculousness of the imaginary scene he'd created. For a moment, his mood seemed to lift. Later that night, Lin found herself sitting outside, alone, nibbling on some snacks. She was lost in thought when a group of guys appeared nearby, loud and obnoxious, and one of them turned his attention to her. Hey lady, why are you eating outside all alone? How about I keep you company? He said with a grin that made Lin uncomfortable. Before she could respond, a calm but authoritative voice cut through the tension. Let's talk, the voice said, and Lin turned to see a familiar face. It was Shen Wan, the tattoo artist. He looked bored, but there was an underlying sharpness in his eyes. It's rude to disturb someone while they're eating snacks. The group of men stiffened. Boss Wan, why are you here? You here to stand up for your brothers? Shen Wan shrugged casually. No, I came to buy a bottle of water. The leader of the group scoffed. Bro, what's your problem? I'm getting sleepy, Shen Wan said with a yawn, clearly unbothered by the tension. If you want to fight, let's fight. But let's hurry it up. I still have homework to finish. Lin couldn't believe what she was hearing. Homework? Shen Wan, a tattoo artist who could intimidate a group of guys without breaking a sweat, was worried about homework? The men looked equally baffled. You still go to school? One of them sneered. You do your homework? Shen Wan's nonchalant demeanor remained intact. Yeah, school starts again tomorrow. The leader shook his head in disbelief. What kind of hoodlum are you? Even in the middle of a fight, you're thinking about school? What's with the cool act? I was giving you face by calling you Boss Wan. Now you really think you're some big shot. Another voice from the back suddenly interrupted. Boss Wan is a big shot, one of Shen Wan's men said, stepping forward with a menacing grin. Before the situation could escalate, fists began to fly, and the group charged. But Shen Wan was ready. I'll handle this myself, he shouted. Come at me. Lin watched, stunned, as chaos unfolded before her. Shen Wan, calm and collected only moments ago, was now fully engaged in the brawl. Come here. Come at me, he taunted, his voice cutting through the clamor. One of the guys from the opposing group suddenly shouted in a panic. Hello, is this 119? Mocking the earlier situation. Lin could only shake her head as she watched the scene unfold. Shen Wan, the The strange mix of a tough guy with a quiet, nerdy side had effortlessly stepped into this chaotic world. She couldn't help but wonder how many people had been drawn in by his unassuming but dangerous charisma. Who knows how many ladies have fallen victim to this face? The tension in the air thickened as the scuffle came to a halt. F********. Scram! One of the gang members shouted as he backed away, clearly shaken by Shen Wan's calm, yet unnerving demeanor. I just saw the staff from the convenience store call the cops. Another one muttered, his bravado slipping as he glanced nervously toward the store. You rascal! How dare you say that? Their leader snarled, trying to hold on to his tough exterior. Come at me if you dare. But Shen Wan, unfazed as ever, simply raised an eyebrow. The ladies at the convenience store? I think they called the cops, he said, his voice completely calm. The leader blinked in confusion, unsure how to respond. Huh? Shen Juan sighed. It's 10:30. The best time for sleep. He started to walk away, his indifference making him seem even more intimidating. Wait, weren't the cops called? One of the gang members asked, his voice tinged with panic. Shen Wan yawned. I need my sleep. The gang stared at him, dumbfounded. Even Lin, watching from a distance, couldn't believe it. He's even a health-conscious hoodlum. With that, Shen Wan turned and left, leaving the gang members scrambling as they realized the police were on their way. The cops are here! Run! The group scattered, shouting at each other to not get caught. One of them looked back at Shen Wan in disbelief. You're really just going to leave your friends behind? MHM. Shen Wan replied nonchalantly as he walked off. Lin, still holding her snack, couldn't help but smile at the absurdity of it all. As Shen Wan passed by, he noticed something on the ground. Yours fell earlier, didn't it? He asked, handing her a small item she hadn't even noticed she'd dropped. Thank you, she whispered, surprised by his unexpected kindness. The next day, Shen Wan stretched as he woke up. That was the best sleep I've had in months, he muttered, feeling refreshed. But as he glanced around his room, his eyes landed on the untouched rice ball from last night. He groaned. I forgot to eat it. A small pang of guilt hit him. I put her consideration to waste. Back at school, Lin stood nervously outside the classroom, waiting for her first day to begin. A teacher approached her, clipboard in hand. Excuse me, he said, looking her up and down. Are you the new transfer student in year 11, class 10? She nodded. Follow me, he instructed, and she quickly fell in a step behind him. As they walked through the school's sprawling campus, Lin couldn't help but marvel at the size. It's massive, she thought. The teacher, noticing her wide-eyed expression, smirked. The school in the capital isn't as big as this one, right? He asked. Our school is huge. Lin nodded, still in awe. The teaching quality here is even better, too. Do you know what percentage of our students proceeded to higher education last year? He continued proudly. What was it? Lin asked, curiosity piqued. 98%, he declared. Wow, she responded, genuinely impressed. And 90% passed the minimum entry rate for universities, he added, clearly proud of the school's achievements. Whoa, Lin murmured, her nerves settling a little as she followed him into the classroom. Please quiet down, everyone, the teacher called out as they entered. The class immediately fell silent. Lin scanned the room, taking in the new faces, when a loud voice broke the quiet. Who the F*** touch my chrysanthemum tea? The teacher sighed in exasperation. Was that 98% advancement rate just now a hoax? He muttered under his breath before addressing the class. I am Lu Fujiang, your homeroom teacher from today onward. Lin listened attentively as the teacher introduced himself. This is also my first time being a homeroom teacher, he confessed. But I believe there are no students who cannot be taught, only teachers who cannot teach. He went on, recounting stories from his earlier days of teaching, and the class couldn't help but laugh at his anecdotes. Lin found herself relaxing, feeling a bit more at ease in the new environment. Suddenly, a familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. Good morning, teacher. I stayed up all night catching up on homework, so I'm late. Lin froze. No way. She turned her head to see none other than Shen Wan casually walking into the classroom, his usual calm demeanor in place. The teacher blinked, momentarily speechless. Don't worry about being late. It's the first day of school. If you're 2 minutes late, then you're 2 minutes late, he said, a touch of surprise in his voice. Where's your homework? I forgot to bring it, Shen Wan said deadpan. The teacher shook his head, sighing. Gosh, you really make one speechless. Homework you spent all night doing, and then you forget to bring it? You really are something. Shen Wan just shrugged and made his way to his seat. Then just bring it tomorrow, the teacher said, clearly trying to maintain some semblance of control. Go find a seat. Excuse me. Thank you, Shen Wan said politely as he passed by Lin, not even acknowledging her. Lin watched him, baffled. He just said, excuse me, thank you, and not piss off, right? She thought, her mind racing. Just what kind of rumors are there going around about him to frighten everyone in this school so badly? The classroom hummed with murmurs as the teacher, Mr. Liu, prepared the students for their first awkward assignment of the new year. Lin Yujing felt her stomach tighten as her name was called. Okay then, Yujing, you can also take a seat, Mr. Liu said, motioning to the only available desk, which to her surprise was next to Shen Wan. Wait, Shen Wan? Lin thought, her eyes widening as she caught sight of him. The whispers around her confirmed it. Shen Wan is in our class, someone muttered. That means he took a year off? I thought he'd been expelled. Wasn't he involved in that incident? Another chimed in, lowering their voice. His deskmate back then? I heard rumors. The class buzzed with gossip, most of it revolving around Shen Wan. Lin noticed Shen Wan remained unbothered, leaning back in his chair, clearly hearing every word but not caring in the slightest. At the volume we're speaking at, can't Boss Wan hear us? One student whispered nervously. Yes, Shen Wan said, a ghost of a smirk on his face. The student paled, stumbling over their words. Sorry. I wasn't talking smack about you. I really wasn't. The class quickly quieted down as Mr. Liu called for attention. All right, everyone, we're at the start of a new grade and also a new beginning. His voice carried a mix of authority and calm. Some of you may know each other, and others might not, which is why I'm going to give you your first assignment. The class groaned in unison. Everyone, turn to your deskmate and meet their eyes for 1 minute. Mr. Liu continued. The groans got louder. Teacher, that's too much, one student exclaimed. I can't do it, another shouted, clearly distressed by the idea. But Mr. Liu was unwavering. Come, prepare yourselves. I'm about to start the timer now. Lin turned slowly toward Shen Wan, unsure of what to expect. She'd barely spoken to him, and now she had to stare into his eyes for an entire minute. As the seconds ticked by, her nerves grew, and her mind raced. Shen Wan, for his part, seemed unfazed, his gaze steady and calm. Lin could feel her face heating up, and she panicked internally. If I don't say anything soon, my face is going to start twitching, she thought, biting her lip to keep from laughing at the absurdity of the situation. This new deskmate of mine, Lin thought, her gaze flickering down to Shen Wan's face. He's actually quite handsome. How did I not notice before? Did you catch a cold? Shen Wan suddenly asked, breaking the silence. Lin blinked in surprise. HM? A little, she admitted. That rice ball you gave me, Shen Wan continued, his voice casual. I forgot to eat it that night. By the next morning, it had gone bad. Lin's lips twitched upward in a smile. That's all right. Okay, time's up, Mr. Liu announced, mercifully ending the minute-long stare down. Now everyone, think back to when you maintained eye contact. What was your first impression of your deskmate? I'll give you 3 minutes to collect your thoughts, and then everyone will come up and talk about their deskmate from their point of view. Lin's heart sank as Mr. Liu looked directly at her. Let's start from this side. Lin Yujing, you'll go first. 3 minutes later, Lin stood at the front of the classroom, her palms sweating as she tried to gather her thoughts. Her mind raced back to her first impression of Shen Wan. The first time I saw him, she thought, he was lying on the sofa, half asleep, long legs, a perky bum. Definitely can't say that. She cleared her throat nervously. My deskmate, he dearly loves his studies, Lin started, her voice a bit shaky. Not only did he pull an all-nighter for the sake of catching up on his homework, but he also caught a bad cold. And after all that, he even forgot to bring his homework in. The class chuckled softly, and Mr. Liu smiled approvingly. Classmate Yujing spoke very well and set a great example for everyone. Everyone else, please continue to prepare. As Lin returned to her seat, she let out a sigh of relief. I survived. After class, Mr. Liu stopped her on her way out. Lin Yujing, don't forget to drop by the arts building to collect your uniform, he said. You don't know the way, right? I'll look for someone to show you. Thank you, Mr. Liu, Lin replied gratefully. Lil Lin, show Lin Yujing the way there, Mr. Liu called to another student. And give her a tour of the campus, too. Leave it to me, Lil Lin replied with enthusiasm, motioning for Lin to follow. As they walked through the campus, Lil Lin pointed out the various buildings. That was the cafeteria just now. The food there isn't too bad, but not many people really eat there. They passed by the basketball court, and Lin noticed a group of students watching something or someone. That girl's neat, one of them exclaimed. Which one? Another asked. The one outside the court. Lil Lin nudged Lin playfully. Oh, damn. New kid, that's your desk mate. As Lin Yujing and Lil Lin made their way toward the Creative Arts and Physical Education building, the conversation shifted back to her new desk mate. Lil Lin, curious, glanced over at Lin. Let's go. Is the Creative Arts and Physical Education building far away? Lin asked, trying to make casual conversation. Not too far, Lil Lin replied, then added with a teasing smile. New kid, you're really something. Do you know who your new desk mate is? Lin glanced over. Shen Wan, she answered, her tone neutral. Oh, wait, so you know who Shen Wan is? Lil Lin seemed genuinely surprised. Lin shook her head. I don't. Is he the campus crush or something? Lil Lin laughed, a bit nervously. Well, not exactly. The group of students you saw playing basketball earlier are all in year 12. They used to be in the same class as Shen Wan. Used to? Lin raised an eyebrow. Yeah, Lil Lin nodded. He would be in year 12 right now if it weren't for the fact that he almost beat his desk mate to death back in year 11. Lin's eyes widened in shock. What? Yeah, Lil Lin said, lowering her voice conspiratorially. When his desk mate was carried away, a lot of students saw him completely covered in blood. Everyone said that Shen Wan's gaze and aura were terrifying at the time. Why? Lin asked, still stunned. No one really knows, Lil Lin shrugged. Either way, he stopped coming to school after that. Most people thought he got expelled or transferred, but turns out he just took a year off. Lin processed the information, trying to reconcile the calm, quiet Shun once she had met with the violent image Lil Lin painted. And now, Lil Lin continued, her voice dropping, he's back in the same class as me. And, get this, he heard all the bad things I said about him. New kid, do you think I'll make it past the Dragon Boat Festival? Lin shook her head, still a little in shock. The Dragon Boat Festival is in May, she corrected it a bit absently. The upcoming holiday is the Mid-Autumn Festival. All right, Lil Lin mumbled, looking a bit sheepish. Anyway, let me tell you about the student dorms. They reached the Creative Arts building as Lil Lin explained the school's dormitory system. Our school allows students to live on campus, but it's not required. Some students live at home if they're close by. If you want a dorm, you can submit an application and get your parents to sign it. Lin's interest peaked. I can live on campus? Lil Lin nodded. Yeah, a lot of students do it for the experience. Just then, a group of students passed by, whispering amongst themselves. Boss Wan, did you see the new girl who just passed by? She has the aura of a queen who thinks we're nothing. Lin pretended not to hear, but Lil Lin smirked. That's your desk mate they're talking about, Lil Lin teased. Later that day, Lin found herself back at home, sitting in front of her father, determined. Dad, I want to live on campus, she announced. Her father looked at her, incredulous. What? Why would you want to do that? Your Aunt Guan has been taking good care of you at home. Lin crossed her arms. A lot of my classmates are living in dorms. It'll be a new experience for me, and I think I'll like it. Her father's expression darkened. Your Aunt Guan has done more for you than anyone else. Has your mother ever cared for you as much as she has? Now you're saying you want more freedom? Lin stood her ground. It's not about that. Don't be ridiculous, Lin, her father snapped. If I tell your aunt about this, she'll be heartbroken. Are all men who marry into a woman's family this sensitive? The conversation ended in frustration, but Lin remained determined to live on campus, regardless of her father's objections. The next day at school, Lin pondered her dorm application. It required a parent's signature, but her father wouldn't sign it. She needed a plan. That's when her eyes landed on Shen Wan. His handwriting, Lin remembered from the class assignment. Asterisk, it's actually pretty neat. Maybe he could help me fake the signature. Asterisk. Hey, classmate Shen, Lin called out, approaching him cautiously. Shen Wan glanced up from his desk, eyebrow raised. Desk mate, he asked. Lin swallowed her nerves. Okay, I have to approach this delicately. You can ask me if there's any vocabulary you don't understand, she offered, trying to start a friendly conversation. Shen Wan's lips twitched into a smile. Thank you, but my English isn't too bad. Lin blinked in surprise. Is he bluffing? She couldn't tell, but something about Shen Wan's demeanor made her cautious. She gathered her courage. I think desk mates should treat each other with care and love, Lin said, trying to keep her tone light. I hope we can help each other out so that we can both improve and learn at the same pace. Shen Wan tilted his head, intrigued. Okay then, let's treat each other with care and love, he agreed, a hint of amusement in his voice. Lin felt a small sense of relief, though she still wasn't entirely sure how she wanted them to show care and love for each other. As Lin Yujing nervously handed the dormitory application form to Shen Wan, he stared at it for a moment before repeating, So, how do you want us to show care and love for each other? When he said it, Lin immediately felt a wave of embarrassment. Why did that sound so wrong when he repeated it like that? She cleared her throat. Ahem, I just need a small favor from you. Help me sign this form, she explained, holding the paper out to him. In return, if there's anything you don't understand while studying, I can explain it to you. Shen Wan raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. This deal isn't very tempting. We delinquents only know how to bluff. We never study. Just then, the classroom door swung open, and a teacher's assistant entered. I'm here to collect your summer break homework, the assistant announced. Lin glanced over, and to her shock, Shen Wan calmly handed in his half-finished homework. What made him so confident, handing in work that wasn't even complete? She wondered. Once the assistant left, Shen Wan leaned back in his chair. So, what's the signature for? Lin, relieved that he was still considering it, explained, It's for the dormitory application. I need my parents' permission, but my dad refused, and I can't fake his signature. Shen Wan smirked slightly. Oh, you're asking me to be your dad for a while? Lin groaned internally. Why do you have to put it that way? We still have 2 school years left together, classmate Shen. Are you really trying to threaten me right now? She asked, half joking but mostly serious. Shen shrugged casually. Are you done yet? Realizing her strategy wasn't working, Lin decided to retreat. Never mind, I'll step back. I shouldn't have called you a delinquent earlier. I didn't mean it, she sighed. I sincerely apologize. Shen didn't respond immediately, and the silence between them stretched. Asterisk, why isn't he saying anything? He's so petty. Did he expect me to sweet-talk him, or something? Asterisk, Lin thought, frustrated. Later, Shen Wan was intercepted by one of his friends. Master Wan, the friend called, jogging up to him, clearly out of breath. I've checked 4 floors for you, because you didn't answer your phone. Let's go have lunch. Shen sighed, not in the mood for conversation. Just a second. I'll be quick, he muttered, pulling out the dormitory application form. His friend glanced at the paper. Consent for? Lin Yujing to live on campus? Who's Lin Yujing? My desk mate, Shen replied flatly. His friend's eyes widened. Master Wan, it's only been 2 days, and you've already become her dad? Are you actually into her? As if, Shen retorted unbothered. That's what you say, but you were in such a hurry to be her dad, his friend teased, smirking. And you weren't too happy when I checked out her legs last time. You even kicked me. That's not the reason, Shen said with a frown. You were staring at her legs like a creep. Don't you think that's a bit much? His friend laughed, but Shen wasn't amused. Weren't you also gawking at your new desk mate? His friend countered, clearly trying to get a rise out of him. Shen turned away, annoyed. If your throat hurts that badly from talking, maybe you should cool yourself down first, he muttered. His friend flinched. Ow, ow, ow. Master Wan, good afternoon. You've worked hard today. Welcome back to the palace. His exaggerated groveling was met with a glare from Shen, who was having none of it. Idiots, Shen muttered under his breath, walking off. Meanwhile, Lin sat in the cafeteria, trying to figure out what to do about the signature. She was snapped out of her thoughts when a girl from year 12, Su Rui, approached her table. "Hello, is anyone sitting here?" she asked with a shy smile. Su Rui had a certain softness to her, reminding Lin of a chocolate-flavored marshmallow. But before Lin could respond, a group of students from another table called out, "Sister Yi's here to have rice noodles too? Then let's share the table together," one of them shouted, gesturing for her to join them. Lin watched quietly as they continued teasing each other, their comments quickly escalating into borderline bullying. One of the students even snatched the girl's chopsticks, leaving her flustered and on the verge of tears. Lin couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for the girl. It's obvious they're bullying her. Su Rui remained frozen in place as the group around her intensified their mockery. Lin Yujing, still watching from the side, couldn't stay silent any longer. "Is that Su Rui?" she muttered under her breath, feeling a surge of frustration. It's obvious they're bullying her. Without hesitation, Lin stood up and marched toward the group. "Do you not think about the consequences of your actions?" she asked sternly, making her presence known. One of the bullies turned to her, glaring. "Who do you think you are? Mind your own business." Lin, unfazed, narrowed her eyes. "Who am I?" she said, smirking. "I'm your adoptive father. So either you shut up, eat quietly, and scurry off once you're done, or I'll teach you some manners on your father's behalf." The bully's mouth dropped open in disbelief. "What did you just say?" Lin held her ground. "You heard me, and if you don't watch what you say, next time I'll dunk your head straight into the bowl." The bully clenched their fists, but before they could retort, Su Rui's small voice trembled behind Lin. "Do not fight, please." Lin didn't waver. "If you can't fight, talk back. And if that doesn't work, use dirty tricks," she whispered to Su Rui. "Throw everything around you in their face until they don't know what's going on. Then run and cry to the teachers afterward. Sit in front of the staff room and tell them they were bullying you." Su Rui blinked up at her in shock. Thank you." Lin gave a nod. "No worries. If they ever try to bully you again, just find me in year 11, class 10. Later that afternoon, Lin found herself standing outside her classroom, clutching the signed dormitory application. She stared at the signature in disbelief. Parent, Meng Weigua. The signature wasn't in Shen Wan's handwriting, but who else could have helped her with this? Who would have thought he'd actually help me? She clenched the paper tightly and made a vow. "I will pay him back, as I, Lin Yujing, am a meticulous, grateful, and loyal girl." But then she paused, her thoughts trailing back to Shen Wan. He's right, though. Mr. Delinquent never pays attention in class, but somehow he doesn't need any academic help either. Her thoughts were interrupted by a logistics teacher approaching her. "You're going to live on campus?" Lin nodded eagerly. "Yes, I just submitted the permission slip." "Good. We're almost done sorting the dorms. I'll go check where you'll be placed." "Thank you so much." Lin beamed. Just as the teacher left, a familiar voice rang out across the hallway. "Boss, UF*CK. I can't believe you actually left me to fend for myself at the station alone." It was Wang Yiyang, one of Shen Wan's friends, making a dramatic entrance. "Zhang Han's lot and I were absolutely flamed at the police station, and you just left." Shen, unbothered by the commotion, replied calmly, "Enough. I get it. You're so mature and responsible. You done talking?" Wang Yiyang pouted. "Boss, my heart was broken, but seeing you again made it better." Shen, clearly uninterested, waved him off. "Scram. My desk mate is waiting." As Wang Yiyang wandered off, Lin stood awkwardly, watching the exchange. Just then, another figure popped up beside her, one of Shen's more eccentric friends. "Lil sis, we meet again? It must be fate," he exclaimed enthusiastically. "Back when I first saw you at the tattoo shop, I knew we were connected in some way." Lin blinked, unsure how to respond. Right? Have you decided on a tattoo design yet?" he asked, grinning from ear to ear. "No, not yet," Lin replied hesitantly. He waved a hand dismissively. "No rush, lil sis. Boss's skills are top-notch. It doesn't hurt that much." Lin stared at him, confused. Is it just me, or is there something off about what he said? Before the conversation could continue, Shen finally stood up. Lin hesitated for a moment, then stepped toward him, summoning all her courage. I still have to thank him, she thought, trying to calm her nerves. Ahem, she began softly. I turned in the permission slip earlier this afternoon. Shen raised an eyebrow. And Lin's throat went dry. Asterisk crap. I was just planning to say thanks, but I can't bring myself to do it. Asterisk. Shen, noticing her hesitation, smirked. Hold out your hand, he said casually. Lin Yujing stood silently, lost in thought. Shen Wan's voice echoed in her mind from earlier. Asterisk. I just don't like her. Asterisk, but it didn't matter. She couldn't afford to dwell on his complicated emotions. She shook off the thought and noticed Shen walking toward her. I happen to be going to school, he said nonchalantly. I'll take you. Lin blinked in surprise. What? You're taking me? Shen quickly clarified. I'm only doing this because I have something to say to you. Don't misunderstand. Okay, Lin responded, unable to hide her grin. She couldn't help but feel slightly happy, despite his gruff attitude. Later, as Lin arrived at school, she thanked Shen for his help. Thank you. You've worked hard, brother. I'm going to head up now, she said, quickly turning to leave. Shen watched her go, feeling a strange pang. This is the first time she's called me since they got divorced. Just then his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. Mom? He answered the call, his voice slightly stiff. Hello. Shall you? His mother's voice came through, quiet but firm. The money I gave you is yours. Don't give your dad a single penny. Shen sighed. Okay. There was a pause before she spoke again, her voice softer now. Shall you? It's not that I don't want to take care of you. It's just that. I know. Shen cut her off, already familiar with the excuse. It isn't because your mom doesn't want you, you understand, right? He thought, echoing her words in his head. It's just because your mom has a lot of other responsibilities. But the truth lingered beneath her explanation, unspoken yet clear. Asterisk in other words, you just aren't important. Your mom just doesn't love you, asterisk. Shen clenched his phone tightly, swallowing the bitter thought. As Lin walked down the street, she suddenly ran into Wang Yiyang, Shen's eccentric friend. Sis Yujing, what a coincidence, he called out, waving excitedly. Lin smiled awkwardly. Oh, hi. What are you doing here? We're going to get hot pot. You should join us, Wang suggested. Since we already know each other, and the studio's closed today, why not? Lin hesitated. I don't know. Come on. It's not every day you get to have hot pot with your classmates. What do you say? Before Lin could reply, Wang had already called out to the others. Someone get the door. Hurry up and welcome our guest. Lin was ushered into the tattoo studio, where the group was already gathered, chatting and eating. As she sat down, one of Shen's friends offered her a drink. Lil sis, want a drink? I can't finish a whole can, so just a couple do. Before Lin could respond, Shen interjected from across the room. Don't have that. Have a cola instead. Later in the evening, as the conversation shifted, Lin found herself sitting beside Shen. Is this tattoo parlor yours? She asked, curious. Shen shrugged. I guess you could say that. It's really my uncle's, though. Lin tilted her head. Isn't it difficult earning money from running a tattoo shop? You can still make a living, Shen replied nonchalantly. Are you thinking of getting a tattoo? Lin smiled nervously. It depends on how painful it is. Shen gave a small chuckle. You could pick a place where it doesn't hurt. Lin studied him for a moment. Could it be that under that cool school bully exterior of his is actually a pitiful boy working as a tattoo artist to survive? She snapped out of her thoughts. Do you usually hang around this area? Shen nodded. This is my home. Lin raised an eyebrow. Does your house have a security system? If you're in a hurry, I could walk you home. Shen shook his head. Let's wait for the others to come back to say goodbye. Besides, it's only 8:30. I can walk home by myself. Lin didn't press the issue and instead followed him inside. She sat down on the couch and noticed a blanket draped over it. This is Shen's blanket, she thought. Big enough for this tall guy to cover his head. She wrapped it around herself, feeling a little warmer. As she looked around, her eyes wandered up to the ceiling where various drawings were sketched. Asterisk, there are drawings on the ceiling too. I wonder who drew them. Asterisk. Suddenly, she realized Shen wasn't in the room anymore. Speaking of which, where did Shen Wan go? She murmured. Shen Wan stood at the doorway, watching Lin Yujing as she slept soundly on the couch. Her face, usually bright with a mixture of curiosity and humor, now looked peaceful but tired. She looks like she hasn't slept soundly in a while, Shen thought to himself. One of Shen's friends, Wang Yiyang, nudged him with a smirk. Boss Wan, if you genuinely like the little fairy, we won't fight you over her. But you gotta put in more effort. You're just letting her sleep all alone in there? If you like her, then stay with her? Shen rolled his eyes. How did you come to that conclusion? Wang laughed, waving a hand dismissively. Why would you drink for her if you don't like her? Come on, man. Shen huffed. Because a girl drinking with a bunch of unfamiliar men is unfitting. That's it. If we're unfamiliar, then why not just become familiar? Wang teased. Wouldn't it be appropriate then? Shen shot him a sharp look. No, it wouldn't. Scram, stop thinking about it. Lin stirred from her sleep, confused by her surroundings. Where am I again? She mumbled groggily. Shen appeared at her side, speaking softly. Awake. Lin's eyes widened, still foggy from sleep. A ghost? She gasped, startled. Shen chuckled, watching her sudden panic. This girl wakes up with a temper. I'm really sorry, Lin said quickly, realizing who it was. I didn't mean to react like that, but you spoke right next to my ear. Shen smiled, finding it amusing. It's fine, but is it that funny? No, not really, Lin responded sheepishly, brushing her hair back. I didn't do it on purpose. Don't be mad. I know, I'm not mad, Shen said, leaning back against the couch. But your face just now looked really scary. Lin laughed nervously. The last person who slapped you isn't around anymore, right? Shen raised an eyebrow. The last person who slapped me was never born. You're the first one. As the evening wore on, Shen glanced at the clock. It's pretty late. Want me to give you a lift? Lin checked the time, and her eyes widened. It's already 10:30? I can't believe I slept for more than 2 hours. She shook her head. No need for a lift. My house isn't that far. Shen crossed his arms. It's nearby? Yeah, pretty close by, Lin confirmed, gathering her things. Desk mate. See you on Monday? Shen gave a nod, a small smile playing on his lips. See you on Monday. The weekend passed quickly, and by Monday, Lin sat in the classroom, waiting for Shen to show up. She fidgeted with her pencil, glancing at the door every few minutes. Asterisk, he still hasn't come. I even planned to treat him to lunch as an apology. Asterisk. Her thoughts were interrupted when Li Shiqi, a notorious troublemaker, stormed into the classroom, looking furious. Who did this to you? Lin heard a classmate ask him quietly. That red bracelet girl from last time? Li's eyes scanned the room as he muttered under his breath. Looking for you. Downstairs. Lin's heart raced. Don't go, she urged herself. But before she could react, Li spotted her. Looking for me? Shen's voice suddenly rang out as he entered the classroom. He cracked his knuckles, clearly unbothered. Good. That saves me the trouble of looking for them. Li sneered. It's my personal matter. Don't go. They found some people. Shen stepped closer to Li, his expression darkening. No one is allowed to bully the people I like. Li's eyes widened in shock. People he likes? Before he could respond, Shen's fist collided with Li's face, knocking him to the ground. The scene grew tense as Li's brother showed up, ready to defend him. I brought my brother to give you a greeting. If you don't want him to make a move, get on your knees and apologize. Let me return the blow you gave me. Outside the classroom, Shen wiped the blood off his knuckles, unbothered by the commotion he'd caused. All right, but I don't really think this is a big deal. I have a few solutions if you would like to listen to them, he said, leaning against the wall casually. 1. I beat you up. 2. I don't beat you up, but you become more self-aware. Maybe bark like a dog for me and apologize to my friend. Li's brother stared at him in disbelief. You're really despicable and pathetic, he spat. Is it your hobby to get beaten up? Shen smiled. My hobby is watching others bark like a dog. Brother, Li cried out, but Shen's expression was cold. Just to be clear, when we sort this out today, whatever the outcome is, there won't be any retaliation. Agreed? Later, Lin found herself back in class, still processing everything that had happened. She glanced over at Shun, who was uncharacteristically quiet. Their teacher, Wang Ran, stormed into the room, her sharp eyes narrowing at Shun and Lin. "You dare to arrive late to my class? Already skipping class, and it's only the second week of school. You two desk mates must really be attached to each other if you're coming together so late." Wang pointed her finger at the two. "So, why don't each of you explain why you're so late? What's the reason? What do you have to say for yourselves?" Lin stood up first. "Teacher Wang, he was trying to skip class. As his desk mate, it was my duty to fetch him." Wang Ran narrowed her eyes, but Lin continued. "But I did, in fact, violate classroom regulations and arrived late to class. Teacher Wang, after transcribing Ohm's law as punishment, I hope you can forgive me." Wang sighed, relenting. "Fine, you don't need to transcribe it then." She turned to Shun. "Shen Wan, you'll transcribe it 1,000 times." Lin glanced at Shun, feeling a pang of guilt. It's my fault he has to transcribe it 1,000 times. After class, Lin handed Shen a lollipop as an apology. "I'm sorry. I feel kinda guilty." Shen looked at the lollipop, unimpressed. "I'm transcribing this an extra 500 times because of you, and you're only giving me a week-old lollipop to make up for it?" Lin blinked, unsure of what to say. Shen smirked. "Are you trying to dismiss this beggar? I'll bring breakfast for you for 3 days." 5 days? Okay. Shen Nong? Lin Yujing's voice cut through the classroom like a bell. "Shen Wan, does your desk mate sing you lullabies? You're sleeping as if this classroom is your home." Shun groaned, barely lifting his head from the desk. "Huh? Did you just HM at me? You wrote Ohm's law 1,000 times, and yet you remember nothing? Come on, tell me, what is I equal to? 3.1415926. Shen Wan, you'll write it out 1,000 more times." Shen glared at her. "I didn't hear the question. The monthly exams are in a week. Will you be all right? Also, if it's physics, I should be fine." Lin leaned back in her chair, her eyes narrowing. "That's what you said about English, too," she shot back. "You should give me your phone number. Or if you prefer, add me on QQ, WeChat, or something." Lin smirked as she continued. "Don't weekend nights make you feel lonely? Worry not. Xiaoyu's here to teach you physics." She pointed at her slides titled Year 11 Electricity Elective, Vocabulary Plus Test Question Analysis. Shen couldn't help but roll his eyes at her enthusiasm. Later that day, as Lin was poring over her notes, she noticed Shen squinting at his phone. "Did she stay up late just to send me all of this?" "Lin Yujing," he read. Asterisk, "I finally managed to send him the reviews. I deliberately sent them through text, so there's no way a lazy teen like him wouldn't look at them now. Shen Wan, you better study my master notes like there's no tomorrow." Asterisk. "I'm starving," Lin muttered, glancing at the clock. "I think I better go out and buy something to eat." "It's late, quiet down, would you? You woke up the whole house. With your soundproof walls, I could slam the door to my room, curse at you at the top of my lungs, and you still wouldn't hear a thing." "Lin Yujing, I don't care if you used to stay out until midnight. But now that you live in this house, you're my little sister. Get it together. I won't be spoiling you." Shen sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I was hungry, so I went out to buy some snacks." "Was there nothing to eat or drink in the fridge?" Lin asked, raising an eyebrow. "There was a lot, but I didn't know who they belonged to. I don't want to be accused of messing around in the middle of the night on my second day here, or get yelled at by a certain someone for eating his food without asking. You might not understand, but I have to be careful when living at someone else's house. I'm going to my room. Good night. I'll drive you to school today." Shen's tone was firm. "I can just go on my own. No need to bother you." What is he playing at now? Lin thought. "Are you mad at me? Get in." "I'm not. I start school today, so from now on I'll drive you to school, since you're on the way." "Got it, thanks. By the way, you can eat anything in the fridge. We're not that strict." Lin thought about it. "I thought he would hate me at first, but it seems he's different from what I thought." Later, in the afternoon, Lin entered the living room to find Shun gaming with some friends. "Hey Lin, I'll return this seat to you after this round. What game are you guys playing?" "A newly released sniper game. Want to join?" she asked, her interest piqued. I've never played before. That's fine. I'll teach you. Lin settled in beside Shen. I missed. That's okay. Everyone's like this when they first start. You have to press this gun. I died. Good morning, deskmate. Have you eaten breakfast? You like games? Not really. I don't play much anymore. With your skills, the developers will get insulted. God is jealous of geniuses. I can't be pretty and perfect at everything. Why is he in such a bad mood? Was the physics sheet too hard? Oh yeah. Did you study over the weekend? Lin inquired, trying to break the ice. No. What about physics? No. Didn't I tell you? We delinquents never study. Why is he being so rude? Why would I know something like that? I don't remember irrelevant things. I studied. My deskmate sent me review sheets early in the morning after all. She smiled, proud of her efforts. It was an anonymous, kind-hearted person who didn't leave their name that made them. This anonymous person's message also sent me a yellow alert. I almost thought it was spam and deleted it. Aren't you being hypocritical, Mr. Shen? Lin challenged. You forgot to thank me, Shen Wan, your amazing deskmate who stayed up until dawn thinking of ways to raise your physics grade above 30. Thank you? You mean I need to thank the anonymous, kind-hearted person? Right? Crap. I'm exposing myself. Classmate, you're making this really hard for me. I never leave my name behind when I'm doing a good deed. Miss Lin, thank you for your hard work, Shen said, a smirk growing on his face. In a bustling high school, Lin Yujing found himself immersed in the vibrant world of gaming. As he sat at his computer, he felt the familiar excitement wash over him, a thrill that came with the anticipation of teaming up with friends. Lin Yujing, want to queue up? His friend called out, breaking his concentration. The casual banter made him smile. They were all gearing up for a match in a shooting game, and despite his initial reluctance, he couldn't resist the allure of joining. After all, there was always someone who needed a fourth player to fill out the team. 3 counting you. A full party has 4 players, so we can just match with someone random, his friend continued. Okay, how many people are playing? Yujing asked, eyeing the screen. Then I'll pass. I'll probably get yelled at by our random teammate for being so bad. There was a tinge of self-doubt in his voice, a feeling that crept in whenever he thought about his gaming skills. What game? He asked, trying to sound casual. It's just a shooting game. Why are you shivering? Yujing shrugged, a feigned nonchalance masking his unease. I'm not. It's just a bit cold. His friend shot him a skeptical look. I'm effing scared of you. You're the sauce of no. S-high. The one who almost killed his former deskmate. At that, Yujing felt a mix of confusion and annoyance. Deskmate, your expression is so cold that it's a little scary. I scared him? Then why aren't you scared? You even dare to sit next to me. I'm scared, but it's pointless to be afraid, he admitted, feeling a strange sense of vulnerability. There's always someone who has to sacrifice themselves. If not me, then who else? It is my destiny to be mistreated by fortune. His friend raised an eyebrow, a hint of concern in their expression. Hold on, did I mistreat you? No, Yujing replied, and as the words left his mouth, he couldn't help but feel a flicker of warmth in his chest. Am I not good to you? You are, Yujing reassured, his voice softening. You're as warm as a spring breeze. I'll never find another person who treats me as well as you do. Yujing couldn't help but roll his eyes at the dramatic tone, but he felt a tug at his heart. This girl just loves to use her innocent face to spout such annoying words. Then came the shout from the game. It's over. The boss is mad. You guys are missing one person? I'll play, Yujing declared, determined to prove himself, even if just a little. 2? It's this game. Asterisk ah. None. I'll download it now. As the game loaded, Yujing felt a surge of adrenaline. The boss had only sighed this time, managing to control his anger. Does he have 8th grader syndrome? He wondered, stifling a laugh at the thought. 10 minutes later, he's so good. It's impossible to tell that he only downloaded the game 10 minutes ago. He's already capable of carrying all of US, his friend exclaimed, admiration lacing their tone. I'm already amazing. Who cares if I'm bad at games? Yujing shot back, a playful smirk on his lips. What's wrong? Just admit it. This is definitely not your first time playing. It's not my first time playing shooting games, he confessed, a glint of mischief in his eyes. I knew it. Wait, do you like playing these? Someday, I'll take you to play a real one. His friend's teasing words hung in the air, and Yujing felt a strange kinship forming between them, despite the teasing. You delinquents are built different. As fall break approached, the atmosphere shifted. The thrill of gaming faded, replaced by the dread of midterms looming on the horizon. It's finally fall break. Where should we go? Someone asked, try to rally the group. I'll pass. Midterms are coming up, Yujing replied, a sense of resignation creeping into his voice. Let's make a bet. Whoever studies loses. What's up? I don't want to go on break. I want to learn. Can't I just keep studying? School is such a wonderful thing, he insisted, clinging to the familiar comfort of textbooks and notes, even as the others groaned in frustration. Do you really like school, or you don't want to go home? Yujing's heart sank at that question. I don't want to go home. Why'd I suddenly tell him the truth? He took a deep breath, revealing a little of himself. Because I live in a fairy house. If I go home, I'll be caught and forced to study magic. I'll get going first, little desk mate. All right, I'll be in the parlor all vacation. Huh? You're not traveling anywhere. If you're bored and have nothing to do, you can come over. I'll be there. I thought he was an annoying delinquent, but he's actually more kind and attentive to details than anyone else. Yujing thought, admiration blossoming in his chest. Asterisk for him, this kind of warmth comes so naturally. It's like someone has cared for him like this since he was a kid. He probably has a loving family. He must have grown up with people who cherish him. Asterisk. Asterisk must be nice. I want that too. Asterisk. As the days passed, thoughts of Fu Mingxiu crept into his mind. Is he on autumn break too? Yujing pondered, recalling the awkward encounters that had defined their relationship. He should probably retreat to his room, where he felt safe from the uncertainties of human interaction. Did you not see me? Fu Mingxiu's voice broke through the haze of his thoughts, catching Yujing off guard. I did. Then why did you ignore me? Good afternoon. Dear brother, do you need anything? Fu Mingxiu asked, his tone sharp. If not, I'll be heading upstairs. Wait, what does he have up his sleeve now? Yujing wondered, a mixture of curiosity and apprehension brewing inside him. You better not get the impression that I've accepted you, and you better not be hatching any funny ideas. What funny ideas? The Fu Corporation. Don't even think about it. Why would I want that company? You work like a dog every day. You're in charge of making the money, and I'm in charge of asking you for some when I run out. After all, siblings should help each other out. With a playful smirk, Yujing added, where did everyone go for fall break? As he navigated these tangled relationships, he felt a yearning to belong, to find warmth and acceptance in a world that often felt cold and indifferent. In the bustling hallways of No. 8 High School, the atmosphere was charged with the nervous energy of students preparing for exams. Among them, Shen Wan sat with his thoughts swirling in a chaotic storm. He glanced at the clock, anxiety creeping into his chest as the exam time approached. Did you finish it all? A classmate asked, a hopeful note in their voice. Wasn't that for me? Wan replied, his mind still racing through the notes he had crammed just moments before. I've already had some. Do you still want it? The classmate asked, but Wan barely registered the words. His attention was focused elsewhere. It's time for the exam to begin. Put your bags on the podium and hand over your mobile phones, the teacher announced, cutting through the chatter with authority. Asterisk no. No. 8 High School's monthly exams are a little easier than my last school. This is not so bad. Asterisk Wan reassured himself, taking a deep breath. As he settled into his seat, he couldn't help but notice a certain tension. Mr. Delinquent is writing a lot. I thought he'd be the lazy type and not write very much. He chuckled to himself, shaking off the nerves that threatened to bubble up. Minutes later, he was released from the exam hall, and his thoughts turned to food. Want to go get something to eat together? He asked, eager for the comfort of a warm meal after the mental strain. Did you forget to bring money or something? His friend teased. No, I brought it. We can eat whatever you want. I can treat you. Wan's tone was light, but a part of him felt the weight of obligation. I'll treat you instead. What do you want to eat? I'm fine with anything, Juan replied, but deep down, he had preferences that clashed with their options. The fried rice noodles place and the beef noodle restaurant next to it aren't very nice. But hot pot and barbecue have too strong of a smell, plus we don't have enough time. Do you eat stir-fry? Whatever you want. I'm fine with anything. Then let's go eat some stir-fry. But just as they began to walk, Juan's heart sank. Dad? What is he doing here? He froze, feeling the ground shift beneath him. Are you walking or not? What are you just standing there for? His father barked, startling him from his thoughts. Excuse me, Juan stammered, panic surging through him. Actually, I don't think I can eat with you today. Maybe we can go next time. He quickly backtracked, his stomach twisting. The thought of facing his father after the exam felt like a monumental task. Not okay. I don't want to go and eat anymore. I think I should go back and revise for the next test, he insisted, his voice shaky. I'll make up for it another day. I promise. Not another day. Today, his father demanded, eyes sharp with expectation. Asterisk, what's up with Shen Wan today? Why is he being so clingy? Asterisk one wondered, feeling the pressure mount. I can't let Dad see me. Crap. I think he's looking over here. Juan panicked, looking away as he felt his father's gaze bore into him. Student Shen, do me a favor. I beg of you. His friend's voice broke through his distress, but all one could think about was how to escape his father's watchful eyes. Later, as the exams continued, Juan's mind drifted again. Did you block my number? He read a message that pinged on his phone, causing him to groan inwardly. No, I have exams right now. I'm required to turn my phone off during exams, he replied, stifling a sigh. How are your exams? Okay, they're not too difficult. Come out for a moment. I am at your school's gate. I told you that I don't like you staying on campus. Do you even respect my opinions? Juan felt frustration build. I'm staying on campus because the house is too far. Besides, all my friends live on campus. Come out right now, his father insisted. I just finished an exam this morning, and I'm assigned to help the class leader organize the exam papers. I really don't understand what you're thinking. Do you even listen to me at all? Asterisk okay. Then I'll have Mr. Lee pick you up this evening. You will give me a proper explanation about this situation. Asterisk his father's words hung heavily in the air, a storm brewing in Juan's chest. Asterisk your brother also attended number 8 high school. He never lived on campus, and it didn't affect his studies at all. Why are you being so stubborn about this? Asterisk. I should go ask your homeroom. My brother already agreed to let me stay. He gave me permission and even signed the papers allowing me to stay in the dorms. Brother? What brother? Who do you think? Regardless, you will come home today. I'm warning you, don't try to disobey me. Even if your last name isn't Meng, you are still my daughter, and I, your father. You better listen. With a sigh, Juan slumped in his chair, feeling exhausted. So tired, it just doesn't make sense. As lunchtime rolled around, Juan watched the other girls in the cafeteria. Girls usually love being in groups and eating with their friends, but there was Lin Yujing, always sitting quietly in a corner, like an abandoned cat. I just can't stand the sight of her eating lunch alone, he thought, feeling a pang of sympathy for her. What was Lin Yujing thinking when she suddenly refused? One wondered, frustration bubbling inside him. Asterisk, it was written all over her face. She couldn't wait to get away from me. But, to hang out with me? Asterisk. Student Shen, do me a favor. I beg of you. The urgency in his friend's voice pulled him from his thoughts, and he felt a rush of guilt. FCK. Shen Wan is back already. Asterisk, he still felt bad for stopping his friend without much of an explanation, but he also felt relief when he saw the calm demeanor his friend had adopted. But he seems fine. I won't back out of my promise. I'll treat you to lunch another time, he promised, though the weight of his obligations loomed heavy. What did you eat for lunch today? His friend asked, concern flickering across their features. Asterisk what? You didn't eat lunch, did you? Asterisk. I forgot. I was just too focused on studying. TSK. What's up with him? His friend mused, shaking their head. Our exam starts soon. Why did the boss suddenly leave? Is he going to fight someone? The question hung in the air, and one couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled over him. He wanted to focus, to push aside his worries, but the uncertainty lingered like a shadow, making the exam ahead feel like a mountain he had yet to climb. As the students of number 8 high school trickled out of the exam hall, the chatter among them was a mixture of relief and excitement. Shen Wan overheard whispers about their boss, wondering aloud if he had received a text saying someone was picking on his underlings. The thought made him chuckle nervously. It was all too typical of the tight-knit, chaotic world they inhabited. Wasn't he going to fight? Someone speculated, and Wan couldn't help but picture the scene. His friend striding confidently into a fray, fists clenched, ready to defend his crew. Or maybe he's doing magic tricks, he mused, shaking his head at the absurdity. Meanwhile, Lin Yujing stood apart from the crowd, a silent storm swirling within her. "If you don't want to tell me something, just say so. I won't pry," she declared, her voice steady but her heart racing with uncertainty. She felt a twinge of vulnerability. "However, please don't make up some weak lies to deflect the topic." The end of the exams brought a strange blend of emotions. One knew that he must be upset with her now. After all, she had brushed him off so rudely at lunch. But what are these peanuts for? She thought, glancing down at the bag in her hand, a side dish for alcohol she never intended to consume alone. When she finally returned home, she felt the weight of her father's expectations heavy in the air. "You finally decided to come back home," he barked. "Who signed your dorm waivers?" "My brother," she answered hesitantly. "Why would he sign that for you?" Lin took a deep breath, ready to share her truth. "He doesn't want me to stay at home because we don't get along and argue all the time. So I told him that I wanted to live on campus, and he agreed." "Fumishio signed it?" "I already called him, and he said he had no clue about it." Her father's voice boomed through the room, full of fury. "Lin Yujing, you spoiled brat." The words stung, but Lin stood her ground. "You dare lie to your father now?" "Huh, how hilarious," he scoffed. He never fulfilled his responsibilities as a father, yet he wanted absolute control over his children. "How dare I lie to you?" she shot back, anger boiling within her. "Watch your attitude. Is this how your mother taught you to speak to adults? I'm your father. Am I not allowed to hit you? My mom didn't teach me that. She never taught me anything. Nobody did." Lin felt a deep resentment simmering, the years of neglect and misunderstanding coming to a head. "Isn't it a bit late for you to start acting like my father?" she spat, each word heavy with unspoken pain. Just then, her brother Mingxiu entered the room, breaking the tension. "Phew, you didn't tell me you were home. Didn't you have class today?" "Yeah, I forgot earlier. I did sign her forms." "You signed them? But when I asked you earlier..." "I forgot." The exasperation in the air hung thick as Mingxiu continued. "Well, since you signed them, since I signed them for her, just let it go. The noise is giving me a migraine. Where'd you buy that lemon pie the other day?" "Huh, the lemon pie. I can't find it. Come help me." In a nearby cafe, the atmosphere felt less stifling, yet the emotional baggage still loomed. Lin sat across from her brother, but the questions hung heavy between them. "What's going on between you and your father?" he asked cautiously, his voice gentle yet probing. "Does he hit you a lot?" "No, this was a first. He never really cared before." Lin felt a twinge of vulnerability, exposing her raw emotions. "I'm not helping you. I'm just not used to this situation," Mingxiu said, sympathy etched on his face. "I see. My brother is a..." Lin didn't finish, her thoughts scattered, feeling grateful for his presence despite the chaos. "Thank you. Where are we headed?" he asked, trying to shift the mood. "Where are we headed?" she echoed, feeling a sense of aimlessness. "I'm busy. You can go wherever you like." "Don't you want lemon pie anymore?" he pressed, trying to lighten the mood. "You have never bought lemon pie. Then why'd you bring me out here?" Lin felt a hint of frustration. "Wouldn't he hit you again if I just left you there?" "Wherever I like," she replied, her voice trailing off. "But there's no place for me to go." As she glanced out the window, she caught her reflection. A poor migrant worker from the countryside who had been fired and kicked out of her apartment, wandering the streets with only her belongings, eating instant noodles alone in a convenience store. "Why are you here?" she asked, trying to refocus. "I'm eating dinner." She felt a pang of guilt for her earlier ghosting. "I forgot to apologize for ghosting him at lunch." "Is he still mad? What happened to your face?" It's complicated, I can't explain right now. Who hit you? Mingxiu pressed, worry etching his features. Fine. As the conversation ebbed, a hollow feeling began to settle within her. I should feel relieved, but for some reason, I feel empty inside instead. It was so annoying. After taking a beating at home, she thought she could find solace outside, only to face her brother's cold attitude. Asterisk, what the heck is this all about? Why is he giving me the cold shoulder? Asterisk, the world felt like it was closing in on her, leaving her to navigate the maze of her emotions alone. But even in the silence, a flicker of hope remained. Perhaps one day, she could find a way to make sense of it all. The air crackled with tension as Lin Yujing's frustration reached a boiling point. After enduring a beating at home, the last thing she needed was the cold shoulder from Mingxiu. Asterisk, what the hell is wrong with him? Asterisk, she thought, clenching her fists in agitation. The more she dwelled on it, the more it infuriated her. Why is he being so cold? Asterisk, I didn't mean to ignore him this afternoon. Did he think it was on purpose? Asterisk, the thought gnawed at her, twisting her insides with guilt. But beyond that, she felt a wave of regret wash over her. She truly wished she would never meet Meng Weigulo again in this lifetime. Asterisk, did I offend him in a past life? Maybe I must have murdered, set fires, or destroyed the world to have parents like these in this life. Asterisk. In her heart, a feeling of injustice bloomed. Why am I the only unlucky one? Her mind spun with dark thoughts, her own bitterness echoing back at her. Asterisk, you were stood up this afternoon, so you're unhappy. I'm also unhappy. Since we're both unhappy, that's perfect. Let's settle our problems through a fight. Asterisk, the idea seemed oddly appealing. Anger surged through her like a live wire, filling her with an intense energy that made her want to lash out at something, anything. Asterisk, I'm so fed up right now. My entire body's filled with so much anger, I could just jump off a building. Asterisk. If you won't fight me, then I'll just find someone else, she threatened, her eyes blazing with frustration. I'll fight, came the cool reply. Mingxiu stood firm, his resolve unyielding. I'll fight if that's what you want. Just don't cry, he added, and Lin felt a surge of emotions at his words. Didn't she say fight? But before she could process the shift, he was suddenly hugging her. The warmth of the embrace enveloped her, and she felt the tension between them begin to dissipate. Eat, he urged, pulling back slightly. Why didn't you dodge just now? I couldn't, she replied, trying to mask the vulnerability in her voice. As they sat together, Lin couldn't help but marvel at Mingxiu's surprising speed and skill. How did she knock down that muscle guy? She wondered. With her speed, she could slap the other guy silly in the time it takes them to raise their hands. Does it hurt? He asked, concern creeping into his voice. It's all right. It doesn't hurt that much, she said, though she knew the truth was more complicated. Doesn't hurt much? Maybe you've gone numb then. I'm afraid it might affect your appearance a bit. How about I give you a bandage? Okay, she replied with a faint smile. If you stick 3 band-aids here in a row, I think it will cover all of it. Then I should buy you a roll of gauze and wrap you up. You'll look like a real delinquent then. It'll make you look fiercer. I'm already fierce. Focus on eating. I want to take you somewhere after you finish, Mingxiu said, a glint of mischief in his eyes. Where do delinquents normally hang out? Internet cafes, game rooms, or maybe billiard bars? She teased, searching for a response. Here? You don't like it? When did I ever say that I like doing this sort of thing? I don't even like playing shooting games. Boss Wan, it's so late and yet you're here, a voice called out, interrupting their playful banter. What's wrong with your forehead? I was scratched by a cat. Wait, what kind of cat makes a scratch that big? A kind you've never seen before. The others chuckled, and Mingxiu couldn't help but roll his eyes at the absurdity of it all. All right, you two make yourselves comfortable, Wan said, gesturing towards a nearby room. The 3rd floor is pretty empty. Let's stay here then, Lin suggested, her spirits lifting slightly as they settled in. We're going to shoot a real gun, Mingxiu exclaimed, excitement creeping into his tone. Aren't we using guns? I saw others going bang, bang, bang over there, Lin pointed out, a hint of confusion in her voice. Then you should have noticed there was an instructor with them, he replied, a playful smirk on his lips. Just play with the bow. But can't you teach me? You're still a minor. The absurdity of the situation hung in the air, and Lin felt a mix of frustration and amusement. The world outside seemed bleak, but in this moment, with Mingxiu beside her, she felt a flicker of hope, a light breaking through the clouds of her stormy thoughts. Together, they could find a way to navigate the chaos, even if it meant facing the unpredictable journey ahead.